Hey everyone, my name is Carlos Figo. So me and my group has been analyzing a short story which is called The Bat by Anton Chekhov. And today we're going to be sharing it, presenting it to you guys to understand the short story even deeper. So before we start, let's get to know the author of this book, of this short story. So Anton Chekhov, who is he? So Anton Chekhov was a Russian playwright and a short story writer, widely regarded as one of the greatest short fiction authors in history. So The Bat was first published in 1889. The story explores deep philos- philosophical themes such as materialism, wisdom, and human nature. So let's move on to the plot and the Freytex triangle of this story. We're gonna start off with the exposition. So the story start off. We were introduced to two gentlemen. One is a banker, and one is a lawyer. So at a party, a banker and several guests discuss whether capital punishment or life imprisonment is more humane. A young lawyer claims life is better. The banker, in a burst of pride, bets 2 million rubles. So, what is rubles? Rubles are a type of currency. So, he bets 2 million of it. That the lawyer cannot last 15 years in solitary confinement. So, moving on to the rising action.
So, after they make the bet, the lawyer will stay alone for 15 years and the banker promised to pay him 2 million if he could do it. After that, things started to get serious. The young lawyer was sure that books and knowledge were more important than money. So, he agreed without fear. At first, the banker was confident the lawyer wouldn't last. But as the years went by, the lawyer stayed strong. He read a lot, wrote down his thought, and didn't ask to leave. Meanwhile, the banker's life started getting worse. He lost money, his business was failing, and he began to worry. So, by the time 40th years, the lawyers looked weak but peaceful, and the banker started to realize the lawyer might actually win this bet. But then he didn't have the money anymore.
The banker was afraid because he had lost most of his money and couldn't afford to pay the 2 million rubles. If the lawyer won the bet, he thought about killing the lawyer to avoid paying. So one night, he quietly went to the small house where the lawyer was staying. When he entered, he saw the lawyer sleeping at the table, looking thin and weak but peaceful. On the table was a letter, and when the banker read it, he discovered that the lawyer had decided to give up the money. The lawyer wrote that he had learned to hate riches and the material world and planned to leave before the 15 years were over. The banker felt ashamed and quietly left the room, taking the letter with him.
Alright, so now I'll explain the fall-in action part of the story. So this part happens right after the banker reads the letter from the lawyer. The lawyer writes that he now despises wealth, material life, and even freedom itself. He decides to walk out 5 minutes early on purpose just to break the contract and reject the 2 million rubles. So because he walked out 5 minutes early, he broke the contract. So he won't even get the money. He don't want it anymore. He says, I despise your books, despise all worldly blessings and wisdom. So by doing this, he proves that After all those years in isolation, he no longer values money or the material world. This moment also saves the banker, who was prepared to kill the lawyer to avoid paying the price.
Okay, hi, hello. Now we are going to be moving on to the last part of the Freytag's triangle, which is the resolution, or in other words, the denouement. As we can conclude in the short story, the lawyer who took up the bet eventually left 5 minutes early and voiding the price. And then on the other side, the banker is overwhelmed with shame and relief. On one part, he felt that he is the one to blame for the lawyer's sudden change of in attitude, and then he also felt a sigh of relief because he doesn't have to pay the lawyer the amount that has been agreed upon by them both. And overall, both of the men have changed, but opposite ways. The banker also took the letters that was written by the lawyer to his safe and locked it up so that nobody knows what had happened, and the whole thing is a secret between them both, which is the lawyer and the banker.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Iman Kumaini, and I'm going to talk about the conflicts in the bed. So, in the bed, there are many conflicts that happening at the same time. The lawyer has a big fight inside himself, which is, we can call it interior conflicts. He feels lonely, sad, and sometimes want to give up. But he keeps going to prove that knowledge is more powerful than money. So there is inner fight, or character versus himself. On the other hand, the banker also have his own inner battle. He's scared of losing 2 million, and near the end, he even thinks about doing something bad to stop the lawyer, which is definitely to kill the lawyer in even more direct word. So then there is the conflict between the two men, which is exterior conflict, character versus character, because their belief clash. One values money, but others values wisdom. The lawyer is also fighting against what society believes, because he gives up a normal life just to chase something deeper. So there is fall under category character versus society, and both of them are stuck in the situation they created, which maybe somehow it is fall under character versus fate. This is my opinion, or maybe maybe this is true. So I think that's all from me. Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's go to the themes of this short story. So number one is the emptiness of material wealth. So the story shows that money cannot bring true happiness or fulfillment. The lawyer enters the bed for 2 million rubles, but after 15 years in isolation and deep reflection, he rejects it. How do we know this? So let's look at the text evidence. I wave 2 millions of which I once dreamed of as paradise, and which I now despise. So yeah, that's it. Moving on to number two, spiritual enlightenment versus materialism. While the banker clings to his wealth and even considers murder to protect it, the lawyer finds wisdom through reading and spiritual exploration. In the end, he values knowledge and inner peace over luxury. Um, Again, how do we know this? Let's look at the text evidence. I despise freedom, life, health, and all that your books call the blessings of the world. Yeah, that's about it. Let's move on to number three, the power of knowledge. Books and learning help the lawyer to grow beyond his original motivation. His journey through science, philosophy, and religion helps him transcend material desire. How do I know this? Let's look at the text evidence. All that unwearying human thoughts created in the century is compressed to a little lamp in my skull. So that's the evidence. And let's move on to the fourth one, greed and its consequences. Both characters begin the bet driven by pride and greed. The banker greed nearly drives him into murder, while the lawyer greed fades over time, replaced by wisdom. How do we know this? Let's look at the evidence, the text evidence. That cursed bet. Why didn't the man die? He will take away my last farthing. Farthing. Okay, that's about it. Let's move on. Move on to the next presenter.
The story takes place in the banker's house, mostly in two places: a warm, comfortable room where the party and the bet happen, and a small log guest house in the garden where the lawyer stays for 15 years. The guest house is quiet and lonely, with no contact with the outside world, making it feel like a prison. Time passes through the seasons and years, and the mood changes from excitement to sadness and deep thinking. The quiet, close settings shows how the lawyer becomes more thoughtful and how both men change during the bet.
Alright, so now let's look at the characters and their traits. We have two main characters in this short story. The first character is a lawyer. He's a young man who agrees to live in solitary confinement for 15 years to prove that life in prison is better than death. He is idealistic, and that was shown when he says, "It's better to live somehow than not to live at all." He believes strongly in the value of life, even if it means isolation. And he's also someone who is determined. He confidently raises the bet from 5 to 15 years to 15 years of imprisonment, and actually goes through with that with it, and that takes a strong willpower. And next is the banker. He's a rich man who creates a bet during a heated argument. He's someone who is prideful, like when he's when he said to the lawyer, "It's a lie. I bet you 2 millions you wouldn't stick in a cell even for 5 years." And that shows that he acts on impulse without thinking of the consequences. And later, he revealed to be foolish, admitting himself it was the caprice of a well-fed man. So caprice meaning that it was like an impulse decision. He just made that decision. Not because he's rich, he just do whatever he wants. He just do it. So that means he made the bet out of boredom and ego. Alright, so now for the moral lessons from the story. Lesson 1 is the futility of materialism. So this is referring to the money, materialism. So the money being futile, meaning being that it is pointless, and it is something that doesn't last long, and it doesn't gives you real value. So after 15 years of studying and reflection, the lawyer realized that money and luxury cannot bring true wisdom and happiness. Thus, his decision to walk away from the 2 million rubles that he could have get. Lesson 2, the consequences of pride and impulse. So both characters suffer because of a careless bet, and uh, it was a bet that was made 15 years ago, and they were young. They were a different man, and they made the bet out of arrogance. So the lesson is to not be impulsive in your decision, as you may regret it later, and don't act out of pride. And lesson 3, time changes people. So like what I said earlier, the bet is 15 years long, and time changes people. The banker turns into a desperate man who couldn't afford to pay the bet, and the lawyer turns into a wiser man and rejects the bet.
Now we will be moving on to the point of view that is in this short story. From what I have read, I can conclude that the point of view that is best suited for this short story is third point of view, and the type of vision is limited omniscient. This is because in this story we can see that the narrator gives us first-hand info regarding the banker's emotions and actions, or anything that goes in behind in his mind, but we can't really notice what the lawyers has been thinking, his thoughts or emotions in this story. Instead, we only have uh, the banker's thought.
Okay, literary devices. Let's talk about literary devices. There are a few literary devices that is used in this short story. Okay, let's go through number one. Number one is irony. So let's look at the text evidence. So this is an example of irony in this short story. So I'm gonna read it for you guys. I shall come out from here 5 minutes before the stipulated term. That's the irony. Why is it irony, you may ask? The so the lawyer voluntarily gives up what he once thought was a life-changing prize. The banker feared losing his fortune for nothing and ends up owning nothing at all. So that's why it is irony. Okay, move on to the number two. Right, number two, which is symbolism. Um, here's an example. So, your books gave me wisdom. All that unwearying humans, right? Thought created in the centuries is compressed to a little lump in my skull. So, why is that symbolism? Let me explain. Through books, the lawyer moves from materialism to enlightenment. They represent the inner richness he gains, which is worth more than money. That's why that line, um, that's why how do you call it? Yeah, that's basically the symbolism. So move on to number 3. So number 3, foreshadowing. So foreshadowing, here's an example. Um, don't forget either that voluntary is much heavier than enforced imprisonment. So how is this foreshadowing? You might ask. Let me explain. The story hints from early on that this bet will not end well, building tensions that leads to the climax. So that's for foreshadowing. And there's also number 4, imagery. So for imagery, let me give you guys an example in the slide. It was a skeleton with tight drawn skin. His hair was already silvering with gray. So that's imagery. The lawyer is nearly unrecognizable, not just physically but spiritually, showing the impact of solitude and self-discovery. So that's the imagery. Illusion, number 5. So here's an example of illusion in this short story. In your books, I climbed the summits of Elbrus and Mont Blanc. I touched the wings of beautiful devils who came flying to me to speak of God. Why is it an illusion? This illusion show that depth of the lawyer intellectual and spiritual experience, reinforcing the themes of inner growth. So that's why it's an illusion. So that's all from us. Thank you for listening. Please read the short story. It is really interesting. And I don't know, just read the short story. You will get me. You will get what I'm saying. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening once again. Thank you. Bye bye.